Okay, so those of you who have read, you're going to pair up with someone else who has read, and you're going to answer the questions at the end. So there are, I think, 6 group questions, okay? The rest of you are going to get with someone who has not read, and you're going to read and then answer those italicized questions in between.
Good morning to you. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now through December 12th, go to Chick-fil-A at the University Mall and say you are with Winnie Stuff for Santa. They're matching all entrees with the donated entree stuff for Santa. You can do the drive-thru or dine-in. Not only can you go to Chick-fil-A this week, but we'll also have our quesadilla night on Monday and rainbows on Tuesday.
Remember to bring some for Santa donations into your second period classes. If you bring cash, new gifts, or unused cards, and donations for our school food pantry. If you bring cash, please bring it to the financial office and bring your receipt to your teacher.
Those wishing to participate in our gingerbread at home contest, take a picture of your gingerbread and DM it to Tim Tubers on Instagram by the end of this week. Make sure to continue to check out our Instagram account for more ways you can participate in Stuff for Santa this year.
Today's sports are freshman basketball.
I feel like whoever the
There
dude
is a track
is,
meeting this week for those who are interested. It will be at 12:15 out on the track on Wednesday, November 9th. All attending must wear masks. We will give out some training plans and you can meet your event coaches. If you have questions, please contact Coach Jamie. Winter track open practice will start January 4th and meet Monday to Friday at 2:30. Locations to be determined.
Auditions for Shakespeare's Macbeth will be December 14th and 15th. Sign up in the auditorium. Time by the
not to be
drum
confused with
door.
Big Ben.
Today's grab-and-go lunch is chicken nuggets, tater puffs, apples, celery sticks, and a selection of milk.
5 more winners for the Provo Reads drawing. Danica West, Lisa Russ, Ellie Harmon, Gabe Stubbs, and Emily Grove. Go to the library to claim your prizes.
How come there's like
5
5
more
one day, but
winners
only
will
one
be drawn
that
next week, so hurry and get your name in the drawing.
what do you know except right now?
Students, there is an excess of small shirts available. Like what? Pick it up in the finance office. Small sizes only,
Split.
first come, first served.
If you missed all previous picture days, the yearbook staff is offering a last chance to get your picture taken for the yearbook. Go to U24 right after school on Tuesdays or Thursdays. This is not for retakes, but for students who missed all previous picture days. Again, go to U24 right after school on Tuesdays and Thursdays. This will end at Christmas break.
Students, would you like $500? That is how much the Timpview High School scholarship is worth. The deadline to complete the scholarship application is Friday, December 11th. 2 students from Timpview will receive the scholarship. You just submit a 1-page essay on your college goals and future plans. See Mrs. Morgan in the Career Center for additional info.
Name That Book signups are and 2021 book lists are available in the library. This is the first year our winning team will compete against Provo in March. So get your team reading.
Seniors, this Friday is the last day to apply for the Regents Scholarship to meet the priority deadline. See Mrs. Morgan in the Career Center and the library for help.
Thanks, Steve. You have a great day.
Okay, there you have it. I don't remember what I was saying before this. Anyway, we're gonna look over the indispensable opposition. If you did not read it, you need to do that read through, and I should hear words coming out of your mouth while you're talking to your partner and reading this, and then answering those italicized questions for each chunk, okay? Those of you who are clearly the cream of the crop and have finished, you can answer these questions here. If you finish before everyone else finishes reading, you can then move on to letters from Birmingham Jail and start annotating that. Or whatever else you need to get done. Questions. Okay, really quick, who's done so that you can see each other? Okay, so like you guys could and then the rest of you can like find a friend in your little Slacker crew and finish this, okay? Questions? Excellent.
Well, look at you, you're oh my gosh. Who is you? I forgot everything. So, homie is basically like, look, I wrote it in so he's basically like, oh, maybe that's towards the end, but at the beginning, I know at the beginning he's talking about like, everyone's all for the city, so he sounds like an inconvenient for them. That's his first argument, is like, that's, like, no, that's dumb. Like, there's nothing more terms, and the second thing is, it has to be an active term. Stand by, like, only is fine, no, honey, they don't. No, honey. Yeah, honey. Try again. Yeah, and then I'm not using it. Oh, and then there's that whole like doctor analogy thing. So I would say. Argument is.
I'm like shocked that there's still so many people here and so many people are absent.
Dude, parking is ridiculous. Parking is a nightmare. I need to start carpooling.
I hear like so much noise in the halls. Like I'm kind of a weirdo now. There's too many.
See, I just don't have first period, so I guess I can come early and then just go to the library for now. That might be better. Sweet. Great question. I'll say that to my missing assignments. Okay. The main focus is that. The first argument is that.
Yeah, there's 12 people absent.
Yeah. It's like we're treating it as like a politeness and not a necessity.
They all better watch this video.
Well, in the first two at least. Yeah, he really just like confused that with the down.
Okay, are we still on question one? first cruise and don't hear enough reading happening. When you're done with the section, then keep reading. Hear it read aloud.
I really like his favorite pastime is basically just like exposing people on Maine. He's like, you guys are really dumb and you're doing this thing. And it kind of like,
And here's why.
yeah, it kind of just like attacks a lot of them. So people have or
Like rapid fire roast.
Yes. Like, you know, you're just roasting. Roasting society is
And I was all for it.
Homer really said, I am not a roast society. Hold my beer. Okay, my personal reaction, good content.
Wow, that's really cool. Yeah.
I'm just trying to
Honestly, that's the vibes.
vibes my brain is.
All of it in 2 days. And I still have
Yeah, and also our first competition is Wednesday, and I'm not there, like today, don't get to compete, and I'm like front and center for a lot, so I'm like, I'm fighting for that spot, that spot is mine. Yeah, I don't even know how I got there, but I'm there.
Did the girls get COVID and not show up one day when it was mandatory?
Yes.
Did I make it to the front because I was the best of the stragglers?
I don't know.
Am I complaining?
Probably standing up, easy money, 2 handsprings to its easy money. I'm with her standing on the floor, probably throwing it, probably forearm. I don't know. I can do it no problem. No, get into it. Do whatever you can do. I can dance though. That's fine. I'm not doing it. Okay. There we go. Sorry.
They're like shriveled up like SpongeBob. And then Sandy's done.
I disagree. My personal reaction is that his argument is really weak. He repeats the same thing over and over
I
again.
think the whole
Some of his
thing is
evidence
to be clear.
falls in like the sense of my McFarland, I just don't think it's actually true. And he also generalized a little.
Yeah, because I think even it kind of reflects in like his own writing. He's kind of like really aggressive in his writing. And I think he is right about like all the voices because we can't like, we can't see this classes and all that. They're not in the because they obviously have it as a feedback.
Obviously.
I do agree with his overall claim, but I just don't agree with the way he argued his claim.
Yeah, like just as long as the national unity.
I thought it was, because the whole way,
Like it's the voice.
because
Because, the end of, I don't know, the end of this like call to action, what I described it as, like, he ends with a, he starts out with pointing out what's wrong, and then discussing why he thinks he's right, and then he ends with, like I said, a call, and I think he did a good job. Yeah, you're right, it was pretty confusing a couple times, especially at first, when you're like, I don't know what you're talking about. He was slow to make his point.
We are much closer to the essence of life, not only to the world. Freedom of speech about the cause and fear of our stone hate. We do not look upon ourselves as tolerant or and will to be reminded by ourselves. We have enough common sense to know that it will be threatened to put the doctor in jail because we do not like the diagnosis and prescription. It will be unpleasant for the doctor. To be sure, it will be equally unpleasant for our own stomach. That is why even the most ferocious dictator would rather be treated by a doctor who is free to think and speak the truth. I think so. I think there's all interest or competent rights. For there is a point at which things really matter. For the freedom of others is not of their rights to argument with you. Point at which we recognize this need is much higher in some than others. But always need to be think they are not, but not always has need to be. The exile and the take the I guess it's well, it's like yes, but then you completely wrong on this. Okay, and it's like I'm not much good at trying to I'm not about
Because it gives people that think how these are correct.
Yeah. And so far as the usual touch of speech ignores this experience, at the same time, emphasis is generally recognized right. As if all that mattered were the doctor starting to go out into the park and telling into the empty air what I have to say. Surely that was a temperature as a specific vibration. What really matters is that the doctor should tell me that I was going like
Okay, you would describe it like Nirvana doesn't exist anymore.
that and then the first doctor should have the second one. And that all the same listen and imitate
Oh my God.
this requires
Talking about this dude.
this is the conditions and
I mean,
you may not produce the truth, but you can or error in somebody's but the truth being found, there's no other system. What does the government really find? I think it's actually
silence is what I can't.
Hey, you got a concussion, you're good. We should not
I can't anymore. I'm just done now. Yes.
I think
they should allow these voices to be heard even if they're not great, because it might be hurtful and stuff, but
it's crazy.
someone might not just be in the voice being mean, it might mean something else.
So I guess it is on the way.
And if people disagree with them, they don't have to listen.
Dictatorship.
I think living this kind of arguing that if you disagree with someone, you should listen to them.
Oh, yeah, wait. I mean, like, if they're hurtful, you don't have to take their words. Like, never mind.
Right, yeah.
Alright.
I don't really think those are exceptions to his argument, but I think you might need to re-examine like his argument as well. I don't know if he really ever says that all voices have value.
Two words.
No. Mentioned earlier, I think little America, but yeah,
like you're treating it like, oh, we're just nice. Oh, we have to teach it, them's the rules. Now you're doing like. But we have stuff I have to do like that. Oh my gosh, perfect. In this economy.
sites are mostly either like all Democratic or all Republican. Alright. This whole thing about politically correct, like you get shut down if you say not politically correct, and so I feel like that's kind of losing the smoking for.
Apparently, like Twitter and stuff have been like shutting down, like certain people's posts up, political posts. It goes for the weak spot and then it drives me.
And it's like, yeah, it's really like fearless and it's starting to it's like, oh, it's like,
Oops. It's like, oh, what's happening?
oh, shoot. Like, he really just like makes things like exposes a lot of things that you don't want to hear.
You think that he makes things it's actually getting to the sound.
Actually,
Okay, I feel like I have to touch on that back group. You still reading together and talking?
Us?
Not back, man. My four
Wait, what?
kids in the back. Are you guys reading together and talking?
Yeah.
Okay. Just check.
I mean, I still have to annotate, just like.
That's the one I'm on right now.
Yes, still keep looking at big brain.
I just don't know.
Really, his points were like easy to see in society, like they weren't, it's hard to. Yeah.
What question is this?
6.
Oh, I'm just deleted 6 because I don't see it. How many questions are there?
There's just 6.
Okay. Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Just show me with your finger. Okay, about 5 levels. talk about this. So, if you did not get to the questions at the end, make sure you do that before you turn it in. But we're gonna kind of go over those rather than each check, so you can at least chime in now that you've read it. What do you think, what is his main argument here? What is the argument? Yeah, just,
He's arguing that we need freedom of speech, not in order to protect people's speech, but so that we can hear others' opinions.
yes, because what does that allow us to do?
It allows us to improve our own opinions.
Okay, yeah, you want to add, Autumn?
I think another point you touched on is that it also, like, when you listen to everyone's opinion, it also allows to find the truth. And he argues that it's like the most surefire system to find that truth.
Okay. Yeah, so he starts out kind of talking about what most people think about the freedom of speech, right? Which is, it exists because we are noble and we believe that everyone has the right to say whatever they want to say. However, he twists that a little bit and he's like, that's not really that important. What's really important about the freedom of speech is not actually getting to say what you want to say, but rather the debate and the exchange of ideas that happens when you listen to people who don't think the same as you do, right? And that the importance of the freedom to speech is not in speaking, but in the listening and the exchange of ideas that happens, which is an interesting take on the freedom of speech, right? Excellent. Anyone else want to say anything about that or questions about that? Okay, then let's talk about, like, what are some of the evidences that he uses to craft his argument or to make that point? Yeah.
Okay, so it's about if you're in a court, you have to hear all sorts of things, that people defend one side and then they bring up witnesses and they have evidence, and then a different side says basically like the opposite of all of that, and you have to evaluate both sides of the argument in order to find out who, like, he's really guilty in this case, or what the right decision to make is.
Yeah, and why do you think he uses this court case argument?
Well, it's a good way to show like debates in general, because we can look at that as like a specific thing where we think, yeah, that makes sense. Obviously, you want to evaluate both sides, and in the court, and the same can be said like for just any discussion or debate, I guess.
Yeah.
There's two big reasons. Number one, in the court, the main purpose is trying to find the truth. And number two, you're compelled to listen to the other side in court.
Okay.
And so he's trying to tie that in to mean everyone needs to listen to others.
Yeah, and in a court of law, someone is typically, like, on trial. Like, their freedoms, depending on what they did, right, will be restricted in some form. Sometimes in a major way, sometimes in more minor fashions. But usually don't get to court unless someone's going to receive some negative consequences, right? And so by putting something that's kind of more high stakes than just a conversation would be, right, it exemplifies these things he's talking about, which is you have to find the truth, right, to either exonerate or convict someone. And then you also have to listen to the other side, right? I'm sure that there are many regimes where they're like, they have a court case, right, but they don't listen to the opposition. And that's not really a way to find truth at all. And we know that that's corrupt, but do we think about that in the conversations we have with people when we limit their ability to oppose what we're thinking, right? Good. What other examples does he use? Yeah, Beckett.
He talks about like a doctor and stuff, and how like he teaches you about like what's wrong with him and stuff, and they listen to his opinion.
Yeah, and why does he use this doctor example? Like, what's his point with it?
I mean, it kind of makes his argument like simple to understand, because like you have to listen. Like with doctors, like something you have to listen to and stuff. Like know what's wrong with you. Like you shouldn't argue like what doctors telling you.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of obvious. You go to a doctor so they can tell you what's wrong with you. And he kind of uses it, I think, to kind of almost hyperbolize this, right? Like, you're not going to go to a doctor and he's going to be like, you have cancer. You're like, I don't really like that, so will you tell me something different? I don't want to listen to that. And you're like, okay, like, you don't have cancer, but then you still have it and you're not actually combating the problem, right? Like, nobody does that. You may go to get a second opinion just to make sure the first doctor isn't an idiot, right? But by ignoring his diagnosis, that doesn't help you, and most people would not do that. And so you think, well, duh, I wouldn't do that to my doctor, that's ridiculous, right? But again, when we apply that to this idea of conversation, how many times we're like, I don't like what you're saying, just stop, I'm just not gonna agree with that. And what do we sacrifice, right? Do we sacrifice this idea that it will help us change and find truth in our own opinions, right? So he takes kind of these hyperbolic examples like this doctor that everyone can relate to, and then says, now when we apply this to freedom of speech, do you see some of these same similarities and also some of the same dangers of not listening to people of a different opinion than you, or an opinion you don't like? Any other examples that you guys remember? Yeah.
It's kind of like a comment on his examples, really. And like, so one of his examples is like the soapbox, right? Of like everyone like talking all the time and like, but no one's actually listening. You're learning. You're growing from that. And like his argument there is like, oh, you have to listen in order to like instruct, or listen to be instructed. You know. I think he uses what's like really cool about these examples he uses really simple, common examples that everyone can be like, well, duh. Like for the doctor, it's like, well, duh, I'm gonna listen to my doctor, like whatever. And then compares it back to freedom of speech, and I think that makes everything a lot more digestible and understandable. And it gives his argument a lot of power because it's saying like, look, it's common sense. Like everyone should understand this topic.
Yeah, the more accessible your argument is, and the more it just like makes sense, the more people will agree with you. And with that soapbox example, right, he references this poem from Kipling where everyone gets to have their own soapbox and gets to say the truth exactly as they think it, right? And he's like, nah, like that is a byproduct of what I think the importance of freedom of speech is. But really, what you say that's not the part that matters the most. It's the idea that we have the ability to listen to each other. Because even in regimes like East Germany, like Russia, right, you can set up a soapbox and talk to a group of people that you invite to come and listen to that speaker. But that's not the important part. You should set up your soapbox where people don't like what you have to say, because that is the best way to find truth, when you have those oppositions, and then you can find, oh, what actually makes sense. Have you brought up all of the other avenues of thought? There's a book called, I think it's called Team of Rivals, and it's about Abraham Lincoln. And Abraham Lincoln was a little bit different than a lot of presidents. A lot of presidents pick like people they like, right, to be in their cabinet because you have to work with these people and you have certain things that you want to accomplish. But Abraham Lincoln believed that it was important to have a lot of people who thought differently than you, because in that conversation, you would be able to find what was best for a nation of really different people, right? Like if you just heard the same thoughts that you're already thinking, that doesn't really help you as far as a think tank goes. But rather, having lots of different opinions, that would allow you to then figure out what was the correct decision for a group of people who also probably think different than you, right? Because we've got a big nation. And so I think he kind of mirrors that in this argument here. This was written in 1939, so after Lincoln, but an interesting take on freedom of speech. Any other examples or anything you want to talk about that he brought up? I think those are like the main ones as far as like kind of anecdotes go. Okay. What's your reaction to his argument? Do you agree with him? Do you think he put it together well? Your reactions. Yeah.
I agree with him, but I kind of feel like he just kind of went over the same points a
Okay.
lot, just kind of repeated the same stuff over and over again.
Okay.
So it wasn't like a super strong argument.
You would have liked to see it progress.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Hannah.
I also agree with him, but I think the repetition, yeah, sure, he kept beating dead horse, but at the same time he kept bringing in powerful examples. So
Okay.
it's still interesting to read and really drove home.
Yeah. I think I agree in some ways. He did kind of use multiple examples to kind of go over the same point. I do think by the end, though, he was adding a little bit to those, right? Some nuance to it. So like the first example with the doctor, I think was a good first example because it was really obvious. Like most people will be like, no duh. And right here, he kind of almost is like, now most of you think that you like freedom of speech, but you don't. And as a reader, you're like, I am noble, like, how dare you say that? It kind of like catches off guard. And then by having that obvious example as the first one, it's like, okay, you're right, I agree with you, right? And then he moves into the idea that like you would need to have that opposition, but it's like you need to be able to speak to people who don't agree with you. And then finally he gets to kind of connecting it more to democracy, because he's kind of talking about truth first, right? And then he segues into like truth is essential to democracy and this exchange of ideas, because if you can't exchange ideas, then eventually those freedoms are clamped down and you don't have truth, you don't have as strong of a nation. So in some ways, yes, I see what you're saying. In other ways, I do think he was adding a little bit of nuance to each example. Any other thoughts on the argument? Or things that he's doing? Okay. That's all we'll really go over. We don't have like a ton of time. We were supposed to go over the Toulmin argumentation method. However, that's a pretty important and big Google slide note thing. So we will do that next time. If for some reason we get moved back to phase 1 before then. A, I'm gonna freak out. B, I will have to do some sort of a PowerPoint that you have to watch me voice over that, because like we just can't afford to lose any more days. So not that you need to worry about me freaking out, but just know that that's so I want to talk to you instead about your book club choice book thing. It's a really technical term for the end of the term. So in a normal year, I would be like, you need to read the same book as someone in this class so you can discuss it. However, who knows if we'll even be together next time, right? Like, you may pick the same book as someone and then they're like, psych, you never get to see them again because they're in the other day. So you can still pick a book that someone else is reading and hopefully talk to them. Or if you pick a book that no one else is reading, just be prepared to talk to someone else about a book that they're not reading, and vice versa, right? Which is fine, like you guys can do that. There won't be like a big project at the end where this is going to be, sometimes I can't speak words, this is going to be more of like a book club deal. So I'm a huge nerd, you probably didn't know that, but you know, I am, and I have a book club, right? We meet every month, and we all read the same book, and then we talk about it, and we eat food mostly, right? And like get sometimes off topic, but we're excited because we're reading the same book, we're discussing the ideas in it. And so this project A is to help you read, because you need to be reading lots and lots and lots to help you become a better reader, which will help you on the exam. But B, just to realize that reading is a social thing, that we read to exchange ideas, and that it's delightful, okay? So for this project, you can pick whatever you want as long as it's at an adult reading level. So if you want to read nonfiction again, you totally can, but you can also read fiction this time. So I have some examples that I can show you. I don't have a ton of copies of most of these. There's a few that are like book club books through the school that I can check out to you, but some of these are like the only copy that I have, so you could like dibs it, or you can find a book on your own. But I just want to talk through some of them with you. This one is called Never Let Me Go. It is about a world in which they create clones for people, and those clones exist only to replace the organs of the people they're cloned for. So they have kind of almost like a muted existence, right? But it's following some of these clones and kind of like their life, and them knowing that they exist only to be chopped up for when this person needs their organs, which is interesting. So all of these are kind of sad, sorry, I guess, but they're good. This one is called Still Alice. It's about a lady, and I think there's a movie of it now that has like Julianne Moore in it. She won like some sort of Oscar-y thing for it. Anyway, she gets early onset Alzheimer's, but she's like a really well-educated lady. So she has like a PhD, and the problem with that is when you're super smart, you find other ways to combat, like if you're losing your memory in one spot, your brain's really smart and will try to combat the other way. So usually when you find it, if you have a high IQ, you're going to decline pretty fast after that, because your brain's already compensated as much as it can. And then, you know, like Alzheimer's progresses and you get more and more sad. Anyway, so it's following her kind of journey through Alzheimer's. Equally sad. The Things They Carried. This is a very good book. It's usually on like the top whatever books ever lists. It's about the Vietnam War and the soldiers there. I think he writes really beautifully and makes really cool rhetorical choices when he's talking about this war, which is why it's commonly one of like the best. If it was in like a top 100 book list, it's always there. So very good. The Kite Runner. This one has a pretty graphic rape scene. So if that is something that's going to trigger you, do not read that book. But very good. It's about two boys. I cannot remember which country it is, but it's in the Middle East. And there are some competing factions within that. They're two boyhood friends. They have these kite competitions in this, and they're like fighter kites. So they'll like try and like cut the other one loose. And then the kite runner is your partner who, when your kite goes down, they run to go find it because these kites are kind of expensive, right? And so there's this boy who flies the kite, and then his friend who's the kite runner, and just their different experiences in this kind of volatile country. Peace Like a River. It's kind of a little slow moving, but it is about a brother whose brother is like outlawed because he was charged with murder, and so the brother who's looking for his brother, who's an outlaw, doesn't actually really know what the truth is, but he goes, and it's like this journey through like the unsettled West. You find out about his family, deep stuff. This is The Secret Life of Bees. Definitely more of like the women empowerment side of things. So there's this girl, she finds out that her mom at one point like left her dad and went to go live with these 3 black women, and so she goes there too to just kind of figure out what went on. And these 3 women, they keep bees, and they sell this honey from these bees. But they teach her a lot of things about life, and she finds out about her mother and all that. So that one's good. There's a movie of that too. Rebecca, they just made a movie on Amazon, which is very good. And it is these kind of follow the same-ish plotline, different time periods and countries-ish, but both women, orphans. She's kind of a younger orphan when she gets orphaned. She is older, but they meet wealthy young benefactors who have mysterious pasts and mysterious previous marriages. And anyway, so if you're into kind of like the Victorian type novel, Gothic, these are pretty good, trying to live in the shadow of a previous wife. The Lovely Bones is also very good, but there is, she is murdered and raped like right at the beginning. So again, kind of triggering, so maybe don't, if that is not your thing. But she actually, she's dead, and she's in heaven, like watching her family after her death, and also her murderer, like who is not yet caught, and so kind of just watching this fallout and this situation play out. The Poisonwood Bible is about a family who they're Baptist. They go to the Congo to bring Christianity to the heathen, right? And their experiences there. They have a very rough time, and the dad is not the greatest. Anyway, very good. Oprah recommends it. There's that. And then Rain of Gold, super long. So that's not your thing. Like, if you know you have a lot this term, maybe don't read this one. But it's really, really good. It's about 2 families, and I think it's semi, if not completely, like true. But it follows these 2 families in Mexico. They have like a really hard time. There's kind of like this motherland where they're from, and then kind of going back, trying to connect with their family. It's one of Dr. Montero's favorite books, so that's cool. In case you're feeling like connecting with your principal. But super long, so maybe not the best one for this project, unless you're feeling super motivated. Anyway, lots of other good books besides this. Like I love The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. Pretty much I love everything by that author, Kristen Hanna. She's very good. Yeah, there's lots of choices. So you can pick whatever is interesting to you, but it doesn't need to be at an adult read level. So I did have someone ask if they could read Twilight, and the answer is no. So, fun book to read on your own. very long book, but not that well written. I'll just say it. There's like 100 pages of Bella whining that you could cut out. It don't matter in each book. So, yeah, there's a thing on Canvas somewhere where you will just write the name of your book and I will okay it. Again, if you want to be discussing the same book with someone, then get with them, pick a book. If you want to read on your own, that's fine, but you're just like responsible. Like I'll tell you one day, you're gonna bring information about the author and talk about that, or questions from your book that you'll discuss. So if you're not wanting to do that completely independently, get with someone. You can borrow any of these books. Here are the last period that I do this with. So if there's one that you want to dibs, you may, or you can go ponder options and then pick by next Monday. So I think that's the 14th. Okay? By the next class, you need to read Letters from Birmingham Jail because we're not going to have time to do what we did today. Today was your one slacker day. Well, for some of you are excellent. But today is the one slacker day. You need to read that by next time so that we can get into Toolman and talk more about the AP argument paper because there's so much to do. Okay, any questions? All right, excellent. If you do borrow books, just let me know which one you borrowed so that I can get it back one day. That'd be nice. I wish I was rich enough to be like, you get a book. You. But alas, I am not. Yeah, because you're so grateful for super talent.
Can I steal this from you?
Yeah. And I have more copies of that, The Life of Bees, from Rebecca, and Peace Like a River. So, all right, how about 8? And be free.